Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Arena Frontier here on Gateway Sports. We're getting really close to the end of the 2026 season and going to the offseason 2027. Two leagues had their championships this last weekend. One's going to have it this upcoming weekend, and uh, one still almost there for 2 weeks, but with this, like I mentioned before, with this weird format that they're doing. So, of course, everyone will know I'm talking about the International Arena League. So it's getting, like I said, pretty soon it'll be hard to what actually is going to be covering here because we do have some team moving into another league that was actually mentioned by the National League and looks like joining a different league. Then, of course, then the Athens, Georgia IFL franchise are going to be announcing soon here in about a week or two what their final team name is going to be. Of course, a lot of people are pulling for the Bullfrogs, including myself. And it's just kind of interesting. And also, we got some tweets from a owner of the former owner of the billing of the Billings Mustangs here that came out of where with some compliments and also some criticism with some of the recent arena leagues here, including some about the Arena Football One here, which is kind of interesting to hear. So, going by from last week, I guess before we do any of the championship games, I guess we'll go with the conference championship games here for the IFL here. And boy, both the games tell different types of stories and game flow. First, really defensive within the first half. So it was kind of a tale of two cities with these games here. So kind of interesting. So first we will go with, and of course I have to remind people that these are both 3-1 game seated with both in the Eastern and Western Conference of the Indoor Football League. First one we'll go with the offensive showdown, which was the Tulsa Oilers at the Green Bay Blizzard. This game was fun, not gonna lie, on both sides. Both quarterbacks showed up and put out some good stats. Running game was actually pretty good, though I will say that it's the special teams could have been maybe a little bit better on one on the team for the Blizzard, but I digress. But very good back and forth game. It never caused anyone to go anywhere. And also for it to go into overtime when it tied up at 60-60, and it went into overtime within the last 2 minutes. And it was just fun. And to have this game come to an end and actually for the home team for the Green Bay Blizzard, it was just fun. And the Green Bay Blizzard beat the Tulsa Oilers 67-60. Tulsa has nothing to be disappointed with. It, like I said, this with both these teams played for both teams, it could have gone either way. And the Green Bay Blizzard once again beat the Tulsa Oilers 67-60. And like I said before, for being the number one seed, remember, the Green Bay Blizzard lost their two offensive players to the Arizona Rattlers last year and be able to come back and stronger as well, and being able to go to play in Tuscan for the championship for the IFL is just really impressive after, like I said before, losing your two-star offensive players, quarterback and running back. It just, wow, and be able to do that. And Tulsa, like TJ Edwards did good, and hopefully they're able to keep him because every team is looking for talent, especially when it comes to the new teams. Because with Coach Rob Keeb coaching up for the new Athens, Georgia franchise that is owned by Hall of Fame running back Jerome Bettis, and then also as well being owned by former St. Louis Cardinal Brian Jordan, you know they want to have good success here. So it's going to be quite interesting for what that franchise does. And I have to remind people that this is a franchise that's in a college town. Of course, this will not be the only franchise that would be in a more college sports oriented town. So it's just going to be quite interesting how this goes. And just very good stat wise. Like I said, Green Bay Blizzard in the Eastern Conference beat the Tulsa Oilers 67-60. Tulsa quarterback TJ Edwards, the second, 14 out of 21, 142 yards, 4 TDs, 7 attempts, 16 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Running back Caleb Ramsey, 12 rushing attempts, 52 yards, 2 TDs, 4 receptions for 23 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Jamarick Smith Sr., 4 receptions, 70 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Keltron Jackson Jr., 3 receptions, 13 yards, and a touchdown. Best defensive performance, Stephen Parker's 5 tackles, 4 assists, and a sack. Green Bay quarterback Liam Thompson, 20 to 26, 232 yards, 7 yards, 7 attempts for 61 yards. Excuse me. Running back Demlin Brown, 13 attempts, 43 yards, and a touchdown, 3 receptions for 25 yards. Wide receiver Tavon Alexander, 7 receptions, 95 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Wide receiver Salvador Campbell, 4 receptions, 52 yards, and a touchdown. Wide receiver Drayson Hudson, 2 receptions, 38 touchdowns, at the 38 yards and 2 touchdowns. Sorry. Blah, blah. Wide receiver Isaac Ross, 4 receptions, 21 yards, and a touchdown. Best defensive performer Fred Flavors, 6 tackles and assists, and also did some special teams plays as well. So for the Green Bay Blizzard to actually get a good win at home, it also brings good success there. And it's kind of interesting because we didn't hear much from the owners of Green Bay this year compared to last year. It's kind of interesting when you actually shut up and there's actually good morale for the team and good things happen. Okay, next one in San Diego playing in Oceanside. I have to remind people that the San Diego Strike Force and the Oceanside Stealth play in the same stadium. 2 different leagues, same sport, one with nets, one without nets. It's interesting. This game was first. It started real slow. Like I said, it was more defensive battle in the first half. Heck, it was like 3-0 at the first score with the Strike Force just getting that field goal. Was like the tempo was slow and everything. It was like kind of unusual. And like it showed, like mostly it showed at the beginning. The Arizona Runners but they kept just making mistakes. Cause Max, Nate Davis threw an interception pretty soon, and so did Max Malar of Arizona. So it was just like, dang. Then after the second half, then it just kept keeping back up, and they kept going back and forth. But Arizona Rattlers beat the home team 43-37. It was just, once again, this was another great game. I wish they were able to restream these games, but both these games were Yahoo Sports Network, and they don't even show like they do replays, but you just never know when they're going to show up. But it was a very good game and a good it's a sad into the San Diego Strike Force. They were the number 1 seed in the Western. The lower seed is going to win the conference championship and go play in Tucson for not that far travel for the Arizona Rattlers fans. So it's going to be interesting how much of the Green Bay fans get to go to Tucson. So, like I said, this was a very good game, but just it started out slow and defensive, then it started to pick up steam within the second half. So it was like I said, very good. And now Max Miller and Kamari Clark, though he hasn't been really much of a factor as one would think, because Ron Brown Jr. is taking his stops here. Like, I believe he's kind of injured or just not playing well, but Max Miller, their quarterback, is doing what he usually does. But it's kind of interesting now that Max Miller, the former quarterback of the Green Bay Blizzard, is facing his former team in the championship game as the quarterback of the Arizona Rattlers. Arizona cornerback Max Miller was 14-23, 159 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 8 rushing attempts for 21 yards and 2 TDs. Running back Ron Brown Jr., 3 attempts, 22 yards, 4 receptions, 57 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and 1 kick return for 50 yards and a kick return touchdown. Wide receiver Trey Odoms Dukes, 4 receptions, 59 yards, and a touchdown. Yashawn McKee Sr., 5 tackles, 1 assist, and an interception. San Diego Strike Force quarterback best defense for Yaska McCure Sr., 5 tackles, 1 assist, and an interception. San Diego Strike Force Nate Davis, excuse me, 18-34, 255 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, 4 attempts, 9 yards. Running back Kyle Kelly, also the backup quarterback, 5 attempts, 12 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Dallas Jones, 6 receptions, 112 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Shane Hooks, 4 receptions, 60 yards, and 3 TDs. Best defense for Jermaine Colson, 2 tackles, 1 assist, 1 interception. And the IFL Championship, like I said, will be played in Tuscan at the Sugar Skulls Arena in Arizona, and will play on Sunday evening at, I believe, 6:30 Central. We'll double check it because I have it here at a moment. So, like, for the ending for the Strike Force in Tulsa, I do expect them to be kind of at the similar level, but it also depends on, because, like, free agency happens and anyone could sign anywhere, like what happened already with Max Millar going from Crane Bay to Arizona. So you never know what could happen, and especially like I said, you got some new expansion franchise, and I know there's probably a few players that want to play for Rob Keefe and Athens, Georgia. So that's going to be kind of interesting here. Before we get to the first championship game, like I said, the American Arena League, which shockingly is more stable than it seems like even the AF1 is right now, they actually announced, because originally they were having 4 new expansion teams, which was 2 of the Texas one, the Warhogs, the Frisco Steam, but now it's, I believe, the North Texas Steam. Excuse me, the excuse my lord. Then it was the Legends, and then why can I not remember? The Catfish, the Montgomery City Catfish in Alabama, which should be getting a lot of praise. And interesting enough, they did just post about their majority owners actually in the tech industry, so that was kind of interesting. So yeah, the Montgomery City Catfish, which seems like a very interesting team to follow. They then announced that the Tri-City Horsemen, formerly of the Idaho Horsemen, play now in Kearney, Nebraska. So they just announced that they are going to be playing in the 2027 season. So the American Arena League is proud to announce that professional arena football is coming to Central Nebraska with the relocation of the Idaho Horsemen franchise to Kearney, Nebraska, where the team will compete as the Tri-City Horsemen beginning with the 2027 season. Following a 1 season operation hiatus, the franchise enters a new era with continuing its tradition of competitive arena football under the leadership of owner and head coach Reynolds. The organization will embark on its 7th competitive season and call the Vior Center its new home. The Tri-City Horsemen bring an established football brand to Nebraska and are positioned to become a cornerstone franchise within the American Arena League. The club has partnered with Zara Sports and Entertainment to provide sales and operational support as the organization builds its presence throughout the Tri-Cities region. Owner and head coach Chris Reynolds praised the opportunity presented by the move and the partnership with the league. This is a tremendous opportunity for our organization. We are excited to bring the Horseman tradition to Nebraska. Interesting with tradition for only being there for 6 years before, but I digress. The support we receive has been outstanding. We look forward to creating a first class experience for our fans while competing at a high level in the AAL. Additional announcements regarding ticket information, team operations, community incentives, and player personnel will be made in the coming months. So now they add a 5th one. So I'm going to have to assume that at least maybe one more expansion team announcement for the American Arena League just to keep it even like they did this year, but we'll see if it becomes an odd number of teams or even number of teams. So it's kind of interesting. And also the map, like it goes more to the left now. So kind of wondering about travel stuff there. And of course, then there's also a rumor that the Wheeling Miners might be moving out of the American Arena League. So we're going to have to see when that goes there, because there's rumors they might be going back to the National Arena League. Like, and so it's like, okay, where are you going now? Let me be clear. Like I said, this is rumor. So that goes there for uh, the American Arena League there. So now the next thing here before we go. Also, the new Austin, Texas, they came with an announcement though. I hate it came in that AI type of format that they do. Like looks like kind of like a school project type of thing doing sense here. An executive was just like, oh, nothing bad or anything. Then they hired someone else. Like it's like they just announced, so it's kind of interesting. They said this person's no longer involved, blah, 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 blah type of announcements, nothing hemmering or hovering about it. So kind of interesting. Okay, the next one here, the AF1 Championship. This was on Vice, but this was also on YouTube, so that was good too, though. You could tell there were two different feeds for the game. The Vice one was a little bit more professional with the commercials, and then when there was a commercial break, the YouTube one was a little bit more or less. You didn't really hear much on some things there, so that was kind of interesting. Very interesting. So, Albany Firebirds, Nashville Cats was, of course, a rematch of last year. Of course, they faced each other with the Coca Mania Bowl, but this time San Casanova was the quarterback, though unfortunately just didn't change there, but didn't change the outcome. But because Nashville, they started head first in the first quarter with Coca and everything. Albany was able to do a deuce, but that was all they could do in the first quarter. But then Albany finally woke up in the second quarter and scoring more points with 20-10 in the second quarter. And then third quarter, they were able to shut out the Cats 14-0. But then in the fourth quarter, Albany, even though they scored and got a 2-point conversion, or think yeah, it was a 2-point conversion. Nashville was able to do a comeback there and score 26 points, and Nashville Cats become the Arena Bowl champions, 59-53, in a very good game. Like I think you're still able to watch the replay on the YouTube feed for the Arena Football one. Very good there, like with both quarterbacks, Coca and San Casanova. Coca, even though he had interception, he played a little bit better, though. Interesting enough, both the quarterbacks, even though they scored a rushing touchdown each, they both had negative yardage when it comes to overall rushing with all like the defensive stuff there. So found that kind of interesting stat wise. So like I said, the National Cats beat the Albany Firebirds to become champions 59-53. Albany quarterback Sam Castro, 25 out of 44, 305 yards, 6 touchdowns, 10 rushing attempts for negative 12 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Dwayne Brown, 9 receptions, 128 yards, 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Isaiah Scott, 5 receptions, 100 yards, 2 TDs. Offensive lineman and wide receiver Joshua Zackert, basically tight end, 3 receptions, 18 yards, and a touchdown. Wide receiver Darian Townsend, 5 receptions, 36 yards, and a touchdown. Best defensive performer, defensive back Marcus Smith, 12 tackles, 1 attack, and an interception. National quarterback Tyler Coca, 25 out of 35, 348 yards, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception, 5 attempts, 7 yards. Excuse me. And then you got wide receiver Malik Honeycutt, 6 receptions, 84 yards, 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Jordan Gandy, 6 receptions, 40 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Dear Lord, hold on. Something with my computer is causing some type of problem here. Just a moment. I think I got it fixed. Wide receiver Kendall Williams, 8 receptions, 114 yards, 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Dave K. Smith, Jr., 4 receptions, 38 yards, and a touchdown. Sorry. Best defense for defense back Amari Alexander, 11 tackles and assist. So during this time, it was kind of interesting for all the playoff stuff. And the one thing that came out of nowhere is that the former Billings Mustangs owner from the AF1 came out of nowhere starting to do some compare and contrast with the Arena Leagues here. So let me get here first. Hold on to get to the beginning here. There we go. Because like he first starts saying, haven't been on this thing in a while. Looks like it's time to fire it back up. Someone like apparently someone asked him about the Wyoming Cavaliers because about their deal with the AIF, and it just looks like there might be a new Wyoming team called the Wyoming Wranglers, but it's kind of instant, and someone asked him to comment about it. It said situation is bad. I'm staying with a 100-foot pole. And so that was kind of interesting that someone commented about that. Now, the next thing is that when someone asked him about the IFL, he said the IFL set a clear, very high benchmark for the rest of the indoor arena football season. I'm very impressed. It probably wasn't cheap, but their product was a solid A. Someone commented, I found myself watching significantly more IFL games this season, guessing it was the professional sportscasters, probably from Yahoo Sports and color commentators. I would venture to guess I wasn't on as likely result in much more wagering this year. He commented back, it was absolutely the clear standard. No team ownership drama, no mid-season name changes, no team shutting down mid-season. Decent turnout for games. It was by far the standard. Then someone asked about the AF1 here. Seeing the league shift from its originally regional forecast 2025 scheduled. Oh, here we go. Schedule pre-Orlando Arizona Cats to just doing these willy-nilly this year seemed like a slap in the face for smaller teams and markets. Why add a California team just to have them play Oregon and Washington Emily? Because the only way the league is surviving is on franchise fees, let's be honest. Jerry Kurtz can't close the deal to bring in league money. It hasn't for years, hoping things will change. I still own part of the league and want my shares to be worth something one day. So he still owns part of the league, but has no. Interesting that he's saying that in the public and answering to a post that it's almost like there needs to be grounds for teams to not spend themselves into oblivion trying to keep up regional focus for travel is a major factor too. AF1 absolutely failed this year in this regard. The location teams make 0 cents. There was little to no oversight of team spending, zero league revenue, and too expensive of a front office. I know one NAL team that just leases a bus for $5K a month. One-way trip in AFO costs $30K plus. The mathin' ain't mathin'. That is pretty dang high for that for one bus trip. Okay, then he said, any thoughts on the AL, what they've been doing? Not sure. I don't really know enough. If I were to start a team living in Wyoming, no question I'd join the NAL. It would be a bus trip for my team. If I was looking to invest in already established team or league on a national state as a minority partner, I'll look at the IFL. Then someone said, someone described to me as putting the rails down before moving train this distinct lack of vision that the league felt like it had last year. And yeah, I heard stuff about him being involved in arena negotiations and driving off owners that want that way to rival leagues. We have the most experienced veteran front office that's all of indoor arena football and doesn't show. We have zero vision, zero direction, zero transparency. It's a joke. Jerry Kurtz is absolutely the problem. I can now see why the fan control football failed under his leadership. Then someone commented, the AF1 mismanagement has been frustrating. The rebound nets lends a presence that can't be matched, but Solo has gone right around them in some time. This year was total pro-am, players and coaches not getting paid, teams not having WC. I can't recall what that means. Teams folding, no rule book, online, Claudebot, social media. Like it's just a total half-ass league. Vibe was definitely different this year. This is what's when you have zero leadership and vision. And then, what are your thoughts on the IAL? Haven't followed enough. What do you think about it? You could always have a good objection view on things. Then let's see. Then Shady Sports comment in your estimate, what is prevent we all know needs to happen a merger that AF1 and NAL. And he said rules, egos, ownership structure, and rebound nets. Plus, I don't think the NAL wants to. Why would they? They have grown strategically and made a true bus league. They are getting corporate partnerships that not even Jerry Kurtz and all experience can get. Right, but if the NAL gets kind of attitudes like Wheeling, keeping Louisiana, etc., it would appear their plan is to be a bus league is not necessarily the top priority. There's a huge money difference between one team and 6 teams needing to fly for away games. Cutting travel expenses should be a top priority to make teams and leagues sustainable. And then overall, the NAL was a clear second league-wide sponsor income, lower cost for teams, bus league, small front office, shorter season to cut costs. Only a team drama Dallas, otherwise a pretty solid, impressive year. And yep, that will go in there. So kind of interesting that he comes out of nowhere after all this time. Also kind of shows a bit about the whole with Jerry Kurtz like apparently being a problem with the AF1. So that's kind of interesting. Okay, let's end that there and go with the Arena League. And St. Joseph Goats was able to come at home and be just very good. Arkansas, for some reason, they were the most rushing team within the league, and the quarterback didn't start rushing until in the second quarter. But it was kind of interesting how that went. But the St. Joseph Goats were able to win at home and become champions, and that's it. And also, Kansas City Chiefs head coach Andy Reid was there because people have to remember the Kelsey brothers actually own part of the St. Joseph Goat, so that's actually maybe one of the reasons he was there, probably. But it was pretty good there. So the St. Joseph Goats win the third Arena Mania at 52-30. International Arena League had their. It's just kind of just like I said, hard to figure out like what they're doing there. The having like the winners for this week face each other in kind of a semifinal, while the next 2 weeks, the losers of that game and the game of that one are still faced there. Then the winners of that one will still have a chance to go to the championship game. Still confusing. Uh, and the Utah Grade Eights beat the Arizona Juggernauts 48-29, and the Cincinnati Slingers beat the Las Vegas Rockers 58-48. And it's kind of interesting how that's going to go because I'm still surprised they're still going with all the troubles that have going on. They're still going to finish, and I do expect that at least some of the teams are probably going to say, "Hey, we're going with this league next year," because I just don't see this one surviving with all the turmoil. Because none of the European teams are playing in Europe anymore. Uh, I just don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, now for going down to next week here. We have the Indoor Football League Championship play Sunday evening, which will be the number 3 Arizona versus Green Bay Blizzard at 7:30 Eastern Time, so 6:30 Central. Then the two International Arena League team, you have two games here. You have the Las Vegas Rockers versus the Arizona Juggernauts at 4 p.m. Pacific on Saturday. And then Utah Grade 8, the 1 and 2 versus Cincinnati Slingers at 7 p.m. And both these games will be on YouTube, and they played in Las Vegas. Then, like I said, after this one, they have another elimination round thing. Then following that week will be their championship. And last weekend of August, it's kind of interesting. I'm not too sure. Like after this week, I'm kind of contemplating because it's kind of hard to try to cover that. There's only one game after next weekend, then following that, so it might take a break or it just might end, but we'll see. I'm still trying to complain. Next week, I'm planning to have a guest. I'm trying to get a guest. Unfortunately, I couldn't get one because of scheduling conflicts, so going to try to get a guest for next week's show. So, like I said, for this upcoming weekend is the Indoor Football League Championship, and the two winners and winners game for the playoffs, and then the losers game type of thing. Still amazing for me to say that here. So that's all I have for this weekend, and just hoping for some more news. We might get some more expansion stuff too, where Austin will, because like I said before, Austin's supposed to have two arena teams, one in the AF1 and one from the Indoor Football League that has yet to be get some more stuff here, but the Athens one's there, so it's just going to be interesting. So it's almost at the end, but yet we still got some questions and chaos coming through, and interesting how the AF1 does for next year because with all the trouble and even an owner with all the stuff. And one thing is one thing that he said that he was done with Jerry Kurtz is that I remember reporting when I was done, it was after the Corpus Christi fiasco. I had asked him to review the financials of the ownership down there to see what went wrong and try to dissect the situation. He said he never asked for any nor verified the financials. I was so upset. Seems like he did the same BS this year. Who knows? That's very troubling because that's probably with the whole thing. And plus, Baymont Renegades, we don't even know if they're playing next year. They're still up in the air. So It'll just be that, like, he's happy for Jeff winning the championship. So, well, does he mean Jeff Fisher or Jeff Jarrett? That's kind of interesting. Anyway, thank you for joining me this evening. See you all next week. Be sure to join here next week on Gateway Sports, and see you all next week.